My name is Sandra Hale. I'm 62 years old. And 3 nights ago, my own son stood in the middle of my birthday dinner, lifted his champagne glass, and announced to 23 people that I was officially retired from making family decisions. Everybody laughed, including my daughter-in-law, especially her. I didn't laugh, because 5 minutes before that toast, I had quietly paid the entire $4,800 bill for the private room they booked without asking me. And 10 minutes after that toast, I discovered they had already put my house on Zillow, without telling me. If you've ever had somebody smile in your face while slowly erasing you from your own life, then you already know what kind of story this is. And trust me, what happened after I disappeared for 11 days changed my family forever. I arrived at Bellamy's Steakhouse exactly at 7 p.m. The hostess smiled politely and led me toward the back private room, where I could already hear loud laughter and clinking glasses echoing through the hallway. The closer I got, the slower my steps became, because nobody had waited for me. Not one person. They were already halfway through dinner. The giant gold balloons that spelled "Happy Retirement, Mom" hung crooked above the table, while my son Derek carved into a tomahawk steak like he owned the place. My daughter-in-law, Vanessa, was busy taking photos for Instagram. My 2 grandsons were glued to iPads, and every single seat at that long table was full, except one. Mine. Vanessa noticed me first. "Oh my God!" she said dramatically, putting a hand against her chest. "Sandra actually came." A few people chuckled. Derek barely looked up. "There she is, guest of honor." Something about the way he said it made my stomach tighten. I forced a smile. "Traffic was terrible," I said. That was a lie. I'd actually been sitting in my car outside for almost 20 minutes trying to calm myself down before walking in, because lately every family gathering felt less like love and more like an obligation I was financing. Vanessa stood up and air-kissed my cheek. "You look tired," she whispered. Then louder for the table, "We already ordered because the kitchen was closing." I sat down slowly. No menu, no drink order, not even a glass of water waiting for me. Just dirty plates, steak bones, and half-empty wine glasses scattered everywhere. Then Derek lifted his glass. "Speech!" somebody shouted. My son grinned. "You know, Mom spent her whole life controlling every little thing." More laughter. "But now she's retired, so maybe it's finally time for the next generation to take over." Vanessa clapped first. "Oh, absolutely," she said. My nephew laughed. One of Vanessa's friends whispered, "About time." I sat perfectly still, because suddenly pieces started clicking together in my head. The weird questions Derek had been asking lately, about property taxes, the calls about refinancing, the way Vanessa kept mentioning how hard stairs were for older people. Then Derek raised his glass higher. So here's to Mom finally relaxing and letting go. Everybody cheered, except me. I looked directly at my son. Letting go of what exactly? The room quieted just slightly. Derek smirked. "Oh, come on, Mom, don't make it weird." Vanessa reached into her designer purse and slid a folder across the table toward me. "Since we're all family here," she said sweetly, "we thought tonight would be the perfect time." I stared at the folder, then opened it. The first page was a Zillow property draft. My house, my actual house, listed as coming soon. My hands went cold instantly. The second page showed architectural renderings, open concept remodels, kitchen demolition plans, estimated resale value after renovation, and at the bottom, projected profit split. My son had signed it already. So had Vanessa. My voice came out low and sharp. "You're selling my house?" Vanessa tilted her head like I was slow. "Well, eventually, Sandra." Derek leaned back confidently. "It's too much house for one person anyway." I looked around the table. Nobody seemed shocked, because apparently everybody here already knew except me. "You made plans for my home without asking me?" Derek sighed loudly, like I was embarrassing him. "Mom, relax. We're trying to help you." "Help me?" Vanessa jumped in immediately. "You can move in to the downstairs guest suite at our new place. It'll honestly be so much easier for everybody." Everybody. Not me. Everybody else. That's when the waiter arrived carrying a black leather checkbook, and without hesitation,
He placed it directly in front of me. Derek didn't even look at it. Vanessa smiled. "You got this, right, Sandra?" Right then, something inside me went completely still. Not angry, not emotional, just done. I opened the checkbook. $4,812.67. Private room charge included. I reached into my purse slowly, and instead of pulling out my credit card, I pulled out my reading glasses. Because if this was going to be the last dollar they ever squeezed out of me, I wanted to see the number clearly. I read every line, every steak, every lobster tail, every bottle of wine. Then I closed the folder about my house, closed the checkbook, stood up calmly, and said the 7 words that changed all their faces instantly. "No, you can pay for yourselves tonight." Silence. Pure silence. Vanessa blinked first, then laughed nervously. "Okay, but seriously?" "No," I repeated. Derek stared at me like he didn't recognize me. "Mom." "You already planned my future without me," I said quietly. "You can finance your own dinner, too." Then I picked up the Zillow papers, tore them clean in half, dropped them onto the table, and walked out. Nobody followed me. Not immediately, because they genuinely thought I'd come back. I heard Derek shouting my name in the parking lot just as I got inside my Lexus, but I locked the doors, started the engine, and drove away while my son stood under the restaurant lights, looking furious instead of ashamed. That told me everything. The next morning, I woke up at 5:12 a.m., and for the first time in years, I made coffee without anxiety sitting in my chest. No requests, no calls, no guilt. Just silence. Then my phone exploded. 17 missed calls, 9 texts from Derek, 14 from Vanessa, 3 from relatives. The first message read, "You humiliated us." The second, "The restaurant called the police over the bill." The third one made me laugh out loud. "Mom, this isn't like you." That was the problem exactly. Nobody in that family actually knew me anymore. They only knew the version of me that kept saying yes. By noon, I was sitting in my attorney's office. By 4 p.m., my will was rewritten. By Friday morning, everything changed. Because Derek discovered the house wasn't the only thing in my name, and the truth of their family business was about to hit them like a freight train. You see, 5 years earlier, Derek convinced everybody he built Hale Property Solutions from scratch. That wasn't true. I funded it. Every dollar. $280,000 from my retirement investments after his previous business failed. But I never asked for praise. I only asked for one thing: 51% ownership. Back then, Derek agreed immediately, because he was desperate. Then, once the money started rolling in, he conveniently forgot. But legal documents don't forget. And Friday morning, I exercised my majority rights. At exactly 0903 a.m., the corporate bank accounts froze. Every corporate credit card stopped working, including Vanessa's. By 10:15, my son was pounding on my front door. "Mom, open this damn door!" I didn't. I sat inside peacefully drinking tea while he shouted through the wood, "You can't do this!" Actually, I could, and I already had. That afternoon, my lawyer sent formal notices removing Derek from financial control pending investigation into unauthorized asset discussions involving my personal property. Professional wording. Brutal impact. Vanessa completely lost it online. She started posting cryptic Facebook quotes about toxic parents and narcissistic mothers. Her friends flooded the comments calling me cruel. One even wrote, "She sacrificed her whole family for money." Funny, because for 12 years I sacrificed my money for that family. Nobody called me a hero then. But the part nobody saw coming happened 4 days later, because my oldest grandson, Ethan, showed up alone at my door. He was 16, quiet, smart, nothing like his parents. He stood there awkwardly holding a grocery bag. "Dad doesn't know I'm here," he admitted. I nodded slowly. "What's in the bag?" He swallowed hard. "The cash." Inside was $640. Wrinkled bills, savings, birthday money, part-time job money. "All I have," he whispered. I stared at that bag for a long moment, then at him, and suddenly, after weeks of betrayal, I finally felt tears burn behind my eyes. Not because of the money, because somebody in that family still had character. I pushed the bag gently back towards him. "Keep it." "But Grandma—" "No," I said softly. "You came here. That's enough." He looked down, then quietly asked the question nobody else had bothered asking. "Are you okay?" That nearly broke me, because everybody else only cared about what I stopped giving. Ethan cared whether I was hurting. So I told him the truth. I think I spent too many years confusing love with rescue. He nodded slowly, like he understood more than a 16-year-old should. Then he said something I'll never forget.
"Dad says you changed." I smiled sadly. "No, sweetheart, I just stopped volunteering to be used." 3 weeks later, Derek lost the company completely. Turns out, running a business is harder when your mother isn't quietly fixing every disaster behind the scenes. Vendors started calling. Loans surfaced. Tax issues appeared. Vanessa filed for separation 2 months after that. Apparently, for richer or poorer sounded better when richer was guaranteed. The crazy part? Losing them hurt less than I expected. What hurt was realizing how long I abandoned myself trying to keep everybody else comfortable. But life has a strange way of rewarding peace once you finally choose it. 6 months later, I sold the company. Not the house, the company. For enough money to retire comfortably twice over. Then I did something nobody in my family expected. I disappeared. Not dramatically, not emotionally. I simply left. I bought a small oceanfront cottage in Maine under an LLC. No giant dining room, no extra bedrooms for ungrateful guests. Just me, a golden retriever named Blue, and windows facing the Atlantic. The first morning there, I woke up before sunrise, made coffee,
wrapped myself in a blanket, and watched waves crash against black rocks while the world stayed completely silent. No demands, no manipulation, no pretending. Just peace. Real peace. About a year later, I got a handwritten letter from Derek. Not a text, not a request, a real letter. He apologized. Not perfectly, not magically, but honestly. He admitted he spent years treating me like a safety net instead of a mother. He admitted Vanessa pushed him, but he also admitted he let her. That mattered, because accountability changes people. Excuses don't. We talk now sometimes, carefully, slowly, like rebuilding a house after a fire, one brick at a time. But I never moved back, and I never reopened the bank accounts, because forgiveness and access are not the same thing. Last Thanksgiving, Ethan visited Maine. He's taller now, college next year. We walked along the shoreline eating clam chowder from paper cups while cold wind whipped across the water. At one point, he looked at me and smiled. "You seem lighter now, Grandma." I looked out at the ocean, and for the first time in decades, I realized he was right. My son tried to retire me from my own life during my birthday dinner. Instead, I retired from being everybody's ATM. And honestly, that saved me.